Hi everybody! Welcome back to Clever Melon. Today we are covering our 7th episode of our Introduction to Business series. And we're going to be looking at part 4 of our business and economics mini-series within our Introduction to Business series. Now, let's have a look at this thing called degrees of competition. So if you remember, we were talking about free markets and how the USA is a free market and everything. So within this type of market environment, we have 4 different types of degrees of competition that can occur. Our first is perfect competition. The second is to have monopolistic competition. The third is oligopoly. It's a weird word to say. I always mess it up. And the fourth one is monopoly. So let's have a little bit of a better, deeper dive into what each of these different types of competitions actually involve. Perfect competition. This is basically where we're seeing that there's a whole group of different types of sellers, but none of these sellers stand out against each other. They don't have that effect or influence to set certain prices for the market or to influence the market in drastic ways. So if we look at it from this perspective, we can say that products and services that are being sold within this type of market by sellers are often very identical or similar. For example, take grape farmers. Grape farmers, they all have grapes. That's their main product. So it's something that somebody who's not really familiar with the product is probably gonna be like, oh, that farmer is selling grapes, but that farmer is also selling grapes. So either way, I can go and buy grapes from that farmer or from the other farmer, because there's not that differentiating type of factor that can actually be wow to the customer, oh, I know this is actually a different product. So we really see this type of competition playing off in agricultural settings, for example. So it would be between vegetables and fruits, like I've just explained. But honestly, there is no true example of this really in reality, because this doesn't really exist. You can't really have perfect competition, not with how the world works. Now, when we look at monopolistic competition, we're looking at this thing that's basically you have more than one seller, but even though they are basically identical, customers can actually still pick up on the differences. So they will be like, oh, even though this company is selling this, I can still see that that company has got a different aspect to that product, even if you don't see it on the face value of it, for example. So when we want to look at the characteristics of monopolistic competition, we can say that a great example here would be a cell phone. For instance, smartphones. If we look at the market today, we have really big competitors in this industry who are sellers of smartphones, such as Apple and Samsung. And we know there's been a big rival between these two companies. But if you really look at it from the broader aspect of it, not going into details just yet, you can see that they both are selling smartphones. So that is an example of a monopolistic competition. So even though they're selling smartphones now, basically what's happening is that customers are able to see that there are certain differences that are actually drawing in them into wanting to buy from one company compared to the other. So product differentiation is a really big factor here when we're looking at monopolistic competition, because you might have the same product, but what you do with that product, the unique aspects that you add into that product, that is what draws in your customers. Now, oligopoly. Oligopoly. I feel like I'm gonna have a bloopers reel after this. Oligopoly. Okay. Now, in oligopoly competition, this is basically saying where there is a handful of competitors that are really holding the market. They've formed a strong barrier to entry so that nobody can really enter that market, and they hold the influence and they make the decisions in that market space. So basically, when we're looking at the characteristics of this, we can use the gasoline industry as a great example. We know that there is 5 big gas companies that are holding the main name of the gas industry. As you can see, I even put them in the little corner there for you guys to look at. So basically, they formed these really strong barriers to entry. And if you remember, barriers to entry are those things that are kind of they limit other competitors from entering, or from new entrants to actually be able to step in and try and gain market share. They prevent it. So it can be things like strong customer loyalty, or even government can step in and put regulations in that prohibits certain amounts of entrance into that industry. So things like that can really like impact your industry, and that's why oligopoly is like very like you only have a small group of competitors who are working within that industry space. And just like with monopolistic competition, we can see that product differentiation can actually play a very big role in this type of degree of competition as well. Now, Monopoly. So we all want to think of Monopoly Man, you know, from the game Monopoly, but Monopoly is basically, in this instance, telling us that there's that single person, that single seller, that single company that is holding and controlling all of the power within that certain market space. Here in the USA, that is illegal. Yeah, we don't have monopolies and they are prohibited by law. The only monopolies that are allowed within the USA, they are related more towards the public utility industry. So you're looking at like your water and lights, those different types of utilities that we use as a public, transport, those types of things. So basically, that is the only type of monopoly that's allowed because government allows those things because they're for the betterment of the public at large. Now that we're finally closing off on our free market section of work, let's just have a look at the benefits and limitations and see how that actually plays in to actually why is it better to maybe have a free market or why is it not better. So benefit-wise, the first thing that we've seen is that it creates competition, which is brilliant because you need competition in order to keep innovation going in your company and keep innovation going in your country. It prompts innovation. It prompts you to go and compete against other companies to create new products. It creates jobs. So overall, competition is really great. Likewise, as we see in our second point, it also gives us that benefit of being able to have businesses go and strive for better quality products and services and to actually look at creating a better customer experience and to have better customer service skills. So it's like that really is a great thing for a free market, and that's benefits that we get from having a free market. The next benefit is that it provides opportunities for lower income workers to actually be going and taking that risk to create a new business. They can become entrepreneurs. So it's also driving the market in that way. And finally, it encourages businesses to actually be competing effectively on price and quality. Think back to our demand and supply studies. Basically, we're looking there at price and quality and how that impacts businesses and customers. So if you are not meeting certain standards that a customer is looking for, your business is not going to be doing as well as it should be. So these are types of things that it actually prompts us to do as a free market. We are constantly on the lookout to see that we are providing the best quality with the best price that we can. Limitation-wise, we see that it's not always so easy for people to actually become entrepreneurs. So one of the biggest limitations, as we've mentioned before in one of our previous videos, is that free markets actually can contribute and create inequality. We see it, for example, if we consider the elderly or disabled or ill, they can't easily go and be like, oh, okay, I'm going to open up a business. Also, some people don't actually want to open up a business. Some are not driven to do that, or they feel like they don't have the talents or can't do it because they don't have that expertise that they need to actually go and open a business. So that was really like one of the big main disadvantages of a free market. Then our final limitation, and this is probably a really big one that happens all the time, is greed. People become greedy within a free market because it's easy to do stuff that you shouldn't be allowed to do. Corruption can occur. So that also impacts our market negatively because people are not abiding by the law or by ethical standards. And this brings us into our closing notes on free markets, in that we need government to be part of that free market, but in a limited amount. Government creates those laws and policies and regulations that help our businesses to practice ethically, to stay within legal bounds, and to follow legislation. So you still need government to be part of that. Even though it's a free market, we want to be more free away from government, because that's ideally what it is, in that private businesses and individuals are actually owning the factors of production, but government still has to play an integral role into that whole aspect and whole environment, because they are the ones who actually create the balance within which we can actually practice in business. Now, in other instances, like we'll be discussing next week, there are like different types of economies and societies that actually embrace more government control. So some of these are socialism, communism, and mixed economies. And we'll be diving into these 3 different types of societies and economies in the next episode. And that is where we're going to be ending for this week. Thank you for joining me. I hope you all have a great week ahead, and I hope to catch you in the next episode next week, Friday. So, looking forward to that. Bye!